With OG Anunoby being on an expiring contract, any trade involving him seemed like a double-edged sword. People weren't sure how much value Toronto could get for him, and for the team that acquired him, they'd have about 50 games to decide if he were worth a big contract. Given the size of their market and the assets they had accumulated over the years, it felt like New York wouldn't make a trade for anyone besides a star. With that being said, trading for Anunoby seemed like an underwhelming pickup for the Knicks. However, the early returns have been great, as the team has gone 4-0 since the trade, and OG appears to be a perfect fit. In today's video, I'm going to be explaining why the Knicks are playing so well, and discuss some more deals they could make in the near future. Before we get into it, I want to give a huge shout out to Good Morning Let's Basketball. They had me on the most recent episode of their podcast, so I'd appreciate if you check them out and subscribe to their channel. I'm going to leave a link to the podcast in the description, and with all of that being said, let's get into the video. Over the years, OG's fit became worse and worse with the Raptors. Anunoby is most effective when he plays a reduced role on offense, and saves enough energy to provide elite, versatile defense. He's considered one of the best 3-and-D wings in the league, which is why so many teams were interested in him. Usually, players like that fit on every team, but Toronto didn't have the offensive firepower to complement OG's skills. As good as Siakam is, he's better suited as a secondary scorer than as a primary one. Scottie Barnes still has time to grow, but at this point in his career, he's in the same boat as Pascal. On top of that, the Raptors have been a bad three-point shooting team over the past 3 seasons. When you don't have an offensive superstar or good floor spacing, that's a recipe for bad half-court offense. The year after Kawhi left, Toronto was able to win 53 games because they ranked 3rd in three-pointers made, 5th in three-point percentage, and while they no longer had a superstar, they had 5 players averaging 15 or more points. That team didn't depend on 1 or 2 players to get it done offensively, meaning that everyone was able to give effort and energy on defense. The Raptors were the 2nd-ranked defense that year, but since then, they've been mediocre on that end, despite having lengthy, switchable players like OG, Barnes, and Siakam. This is what happens when you aren't able to strike a balance between each side of the floor. On paper, Toronto has had a good defensive roster in recent years, but you won't get the best results if your top defenders have to carry the team on offense as well. In contrast, this Knicks team doesn't have those issues. They don't have a superstar, but Jalen Brunson isn't too far from that level, and after a rough start, Julius Randle is looking like an all-star again. New York is also 7th in three-point percentage, so they have good spacing offensively. You might be asking, if that's the case, why did the Knicks feel the need to make a trade? For one, RJ Barrett was not a great fit. When you have 2 players that are as talented offensively as Brunson and Randle are, everyone else needs to simply get in where they can fit in. In RJ's case, he would force the issue quite often, which led to inefficient shooting. Even when he did defer on offense, he was never reliable enough as a 3-point shooter to scare defenses. After a win against Chicago, Julius Randle said that OG has fit in seamlessly, he doesn't force anything, he plays the right way. RJ can score in more ways than Anunoby, but that's not what New York needed. By knocking down his open threes, cutting to the basket, and making smart plays, OG is playing his role perfectly, which has made him an offensive upgrade over Barrett. The second reason why they got Anunoby was to improve their defense. Prior to the trade, the Knicks were average on that side of the ball. While it's a small sample size, OG's defensive stats since joining the team have been incredible. According to Cleaning the Glass, New York is in the 100th percentile in points allowed per 100 possessions when Anunoby is on the floor. They also rank in the 100th percentile in effective field goal percentage defense, and in the 98th percentile in opponent turnover percentage. Again, it's a small sample size, but when you see the versatility he's displaying in these clips, it's easy to imagine the Knicks being a great defense for the rest of the year. As I said earlier, people expected Barrett and Quickly to be included in a trade for a star, not OG Anunoby. While some fans probably think they gave up too much for someone that's never been an all-star, the thing is, you can't always wait around hoping for the best possible option. Jalen Brunson is having a career year, and Randle is coming off his best month of the season. Dante DiVincenzo is a nice all-around off-guard, Hartenstein has stepped up since Mitchell Robinson got injured, and they still have Hart, Grimes, and McBride coming off the bench. By bringing OG into the fold, the team has become better defensively, and they have a more fluid offense with a more established hierarchy. As impressive as they've been, it is worth noting that this team has been shaky without Jalen Brunson in the game. Against the Bulls, the Knicks ran a lineup with McBride, Grimes, Hart, Randall, and Hartenstein, and the offense looked horrible. There was no movement, the spacing wasn't great, and they turned the ball over on multiple occasions. As a result, there are rumors that New York may be looking to add another ball handler by the deadline. Reports have suggested that DeJounte Murray could be that guy, but I think the better choice would be Malcolm Brogdon. While Murray is the more talented player, Brogdon would be a better fit with the Knicks. Since going to Atlanta, the Hawks haven't found much success playing Murray next to Trae Young. DeJounte was an all-star in San Antonio, but since joining the Hawks, he's taken a backseat to Trae. With the way Brunson is playing, DeJounte would have to defer to him as well, so I wouldn't be too optimistic about that pairing. On the other hand, Brogdon was an amazing fit with contenders like the Bucks and Celtics. He's a better shooter than Murray, he doesn't need the ball to be successful, and he's willing to come off the bench as well. If New York is interested, they could send Evan Fournier and picks to Portland. Fournier is on an expiring contract, and as a rebuilding team, the Blazers will take all the picks they can get. By trading for Brogdon, the Knicks would have a replacement for Quickly that's more proven in the postseason. This is critical because with the playoff struggles that Randall has had, New York will want to surround him with as many plus offensive players as possible. The additions of OG and potentially Brogdon don't make this team the favorites, but I wouldn't be surprised if they upset one of the top teams in the East and went on a playoff run this year. Depending on how this season goes, the Knicks could still add a big name in the summer. They have plenty of draft capital, and they still have pieces like Randall, DiVincenzo, or Grimes that could get a deal done. Even if no stars are available, New York would still be in a great spot simply by re-signing Anunoby and Hartenstein. Hartenstein has been great on defense, and he provides better floor spacing and free throw shooting than Robinson. I'm not advocating for the Knicks to trade Robinson, but when you consider Hartenstein's play, as well as Robinson's injury history, it may be better to give Mitch a smaller workload off the bench. A second unit with Brogdon, McBride, Grimes, Hart, and Robinson would be one of the best in the league, and as we've seen, the Knicks' current starting lineup has been incredible. In recent years, New York has been linked to names like Joel Embiid and Donovan Mitchell. While adding that level of talent would be great, the Knicks need to make the best use of what they currently have. There's no guarantee that they'll acquire a superstar, so in the meantime, I want them to continue to make smaller win-now moves. For a long time, the Knicks were the laughingstock of the NBA. Nobody took them seriously, and despite being in a big market, stars weren't interested in signing with them. At the moment, the Knicks are changing their reputation around the league, and whether they trade for a top player or not, they've built a team that will be in the mix for years to come. Anyways, that's going to be all for today's video. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. With all of that being said, I'm out, and I'll see you in the next video.